Hello and welcome to episode 272 of The Crate and Crowbar. My name is Chris Thurston, and joining me tonight on the 13th of February, Tom Senior.
Hello.
Ooh.
Whoa, gosh. I always fail to say that word. It's a good start to a podcast.
And Alex Wiltshire.
Hello.
Excellent. We can talk whole sentences and might.
We'll see.
So, from that jovial beginning, I was trying to think if there was a way of sort of like segueing into the news without it being like, oh, there's your friendly intro. Hello, everyone's here. Anyway, here's a cool glass of shit.
Pour me that cool glass of shit, Chris.
Well, so shit news. So there's been a lot of shit news lately, sort of industry-wise, both in terms of media and games, sort of across corporate culture. The specifically shit news this week being about many hundreds of people being made redundant at Blizzard following an earnings call.
Activision
Blizzard, yeah. So yeah, the top line on it is essentially, although we'll go into more detail, is that following one of those earnings calls that is serving too many masters to really be a passable bit of communication in a lot of ways. Record profits lead to an 8%, was it an 8% layoff?
Yes, I believe so.
Of the company, which is not unfamiliar in terms of the things that happen in the games industry or tech more broadly, but certainly not a story people have traditionally associated with Blizzard, who are or have been for a long time one of those companies that you don't tend to see talk about having to make cuts or having to, and having to, in scare quotes, sort of, spend less, to get, the product through. I think that culture, buoyed as it was by never having a failure, I guess, had always been to at least present this, appearance of kind of, sort of beneficent kind of like, we'll pay what it needs and we'll take as much time as it takes to do a Blizzard game. And that, I feel like that sense of the company had been eroding for a long time. And this feels like a very abrupt, change of gear for that narrative. And now we're fully in. That's a shit thing to do to 800 of your employees territory.
What I don't really know is kind of what kind of people that they're looking to.
So, it's predominantly, as far as I'm aware, and I think because there's been a lot of Twitter about this and things, it's easy to kind of, like, I think even the 800 number is an extrapolation from 8%. Yeah. So I don't want to be too exact about that. But I believe it was predominantly, sort of like community marketing and esports people.
Yeah.
They completely cancelled Heroes of the Storm's esports scene recently. So I have to assume that there's support staff there, that haven't found new teams and whatever. I don't know how many, I did see a report that, for example, the World of Warcraft team wasn't affected at all. So I don't know how many development teams are affected. Not that makes a difference really, but.
One report I saw said that that Activision Blizzard are going to be piling in the resources that remain, into like the big properties. So COD, Overwatch, Diablo, World of Warcraft, those kind of things.
Right.
Candy Crush, I think as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether, am I right? You know more about the esports than I do.
The electric sport.
But I've read a few things lately talking about a bubble in terms of it, where teams and things have been far outvalued what their actual kind of incomes are. And, I don't know whether the esport contingent of this is related to that.
I've had that feeling for a little while, to be honest. Like, I feel like that, and it's funny, like, it feels like, it's less that I got the impression of a bubble bursting necessarily, so much as the failure of certain expected things to happen over successive years. Like, it does, from time to time you'll see a big non-endemic sponsor come into esports, but it doesn't happen often enough to be a trend or like to be anything other than, this year, League of Legends has managed it again, or the Overwatch League, which has a lot of money put into it, has managed to attract somebody. Like, there was this feeling a couple of years ago when I was doing much more esports stuff than I am now, that that a status quo where that is completely normal and it's a self-sustaining, growing business was months away. And it feels like it's been months away for years. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is probably the sensation that describes the outer boundaries of a bubble, if that makes sense spatially. Yeah. Like, it's like that's, you don't feel it in terms
of... It's the Milton Keynes of the bubble.
Yes, exactly. It's the Basingstoke Ring Road of sort of industry trends. Industry? I can pronounce that word. I don't know how much that all feeds into this because, you know, I think that I felt this way for a long time that Blizzard's esports have, with the exception of StarCraft, have always been, somewhat ad hoc things. I think Overwatch is in a much better state now, but it's taken a really substantial investment by them to make Fetch happen in that particular regard. Fetch did not happen with Heroes of the Storm, and that I don't think was much to do with their investment partly, but it's also the game itself. Blizzard tend to design esports games, and that's maybe bitten them in that regard, and maybe they overinvested or got overexcited about the possibility of it. That doesn't necessarily, that wouldn't necessarily account for 9% of their total staff, though, so I wouldn't want to say this is just this, decision by them or by Activision or by both, I wouldn't say it's purely, here's the esports bubble bursting. I think it's something broader.
I think and looking at the broader picture, also had results for Take-Two and EA, who, EA underperformed, compared to, expectation. Take-Two is a bizarre one because, Red Dead Redemption came out, has done 23 million sales, GTA continues to sell, GTA 5 continues to sell incredibly well, et cetera, constantly in the charts, constantly top kind of, revenue selling thing. And, investors also, ran off from Take-Two as well. I look at this as a completely investor driven piece of bullshit.
Yeah, when I was kind of saying that earnings call, like any earnings call serves too many masters to be useful as an act of communication, it's because it's aimed solely at stakeholders and that means that in terms of what it means for, it communicates a vast disregard for the people who do the labor of making the thing, what make the money come in, to be honest.
I think it's sort of like, I think those investment messages and these kinds of earnings calls, they are not, the messaging is all about, hey investors, we've got your best interests at heart, which is totally different from the interests of the workforce and totally different from the interests of game players and fans. And it's very difficult to actually know what this means for staff, and it's impossible to know what it means for the games.
A lot of the tone in that investor call,
is bullish.
It's like we're doing this for the players. A lot of that, so they kind of weave that narrative into this cold kind of calculated, obviously, business calculation that they've made that this needs to happen. And it sounds as though Blizzard isn't going to be releasing any major games this year. And so there are a lot of marketing staff that won't necessarily be needed there. And, maybe some of this shrink down is just part of that. It's just the ebb and flow of releases within that company.
It certainly seems that the whole point of it is also to communicate that, we're doubling down on our known quantities.
We're going back to, developing main franchises. And they kind of also suggest that they're going to actually be investing more in development teams and actually, ramping up development, if anything else. But I think, businesses do change size and change tack, and they have to be able to in order to survive. My problem with this is the way that the employees were treated, specifically in this instance. There are reports of, Blizzard employees, rumours of this sort of thing have been circulating for months, and the people hugging and crying in the car park before this investor meeting, this investor statement, because they know that some of their heads are on the chopping block, but no one knows what, and that's just fucking unacceptable way to treat people who are making your products. And the idea that, one line, some of these people who made redundant, like they heard from the news. They didn't hear from, communication within the company and stuff like that. It's absolutely appalling. It's the way those people have been treated.
And far too common as well.
Well, absolutely. This is, that's another good point. That it doesn't tend to happen at this scale, but this is how the games industry works all over the world. And actually a lot of it happens overseas. It doesn't happen in America. Like it's about the subsidiaries that people use in Eastern Europe or, further afield. And those people are just like mercilessly, hired and fired and contracted around. It's a very difficult business to be a creator within the machine. Basically, you are a resource that can be hired and fired at any point.
Yeah.
Something that makes me nervous about this in a sort of, in a more abstract sense, but when you see that sort of we're making these decisions for the players, rhetoric creep into shareholder briefings, essentially, you got to think about the sort of how we arrived at that point, because it feels like the two places you see that, or that sort of rhetoric is now at that sort of top end here. We're going to appeal to our VCs and our potential backers and our shareholders by saying that we are, player focus necessarily. And you see it at the other end of the spectrum, which Blizzard felt very keenly very recently with the rude Diablo man, right? The is this a joke Diablo Immortal guy. You see it, that same language appear at what is often the most sort of reactionary part of like consumer rights-ish games media, and also sort of fan backlashes and things. And I worry that those, because, and what, that phenomena squeezes developers and creators basically in the games industry from both sides, because, as much as has been written about it, and as much as Blizzard once did at BlizzCon, Mike Morhaime standing up and publicly renouncing Gamergate in basically no uncertain terms, as much as can be done on that side to try and create a better dialogue and to to formally distinguish, player expectations and making, player friendly decisions from player entitlement and what is acceptable conduct from communities online and that kind of thing. For all that effort, it feels like companies have a sense that, shareholders may not see the day-to-day workings of the company. They may not care tremendously about the nuance of a product, but they do notice if players are up in arms about something and the players are threatening to walk out en masse. And so if the execs at the top of the company feel that it's appropriate for them to kind of, court the approval of reactionary players in order to avoid that kind of backlash, in order to, essentially send a message to their shareholders, we're not going to set off a cavalcade of petitions against our company and products this year. I worry that group, which everyone was kind of hoping, that sort of angry, entitled group that everyone was hoping would sort of fade into sort of the woodworkers as adults enter the room, will gain power as they are pandered to in this kind of way. And what that results in is essentially developers getting harassed from both sides, come up from the groundswell of unhappy players, sort of. And obviously it's okay to criticize work, but the way that people can be dogpiled on, the way that these movements can target people from one side, and that stuff spooking the people holding the money at the end of the day, to the extent that the actual working environment for developers becomes far more unstable, and it becomes far more likely that your company makes brutal cuts, because at this point nobody is valuing the work that you're doing sufficiently. Players aren't, and shareholders aren't, via an exec that is sort of stepping over the developer to cater directly to the player, which doesn't make any sense, but it's a position that a surprising number of people adopt.
I wonder what what the negative incentive is here. Like, is it in recruitment? Like, why would you go and work for Activision?
Yeah. When
you've seen how they can treat you, are you going to move across a massive country like America and move your family across, knowing that they can just do that to you at any moment?
What company doesn't, though?
Well, that's the thing. It's the core.
That's the thing, and it's the issue with passion to some extent. It's the fact that people love the idea of getting to make things that they care about. Like, all of us in this room have felt this and experienced this, and it exposes you to some extent to, it is difficult to protect your rights and also get to do the thing you dream about doing. The thing that sucks, and this is why it's such a big glass of poo, is that exists regardless of whether you're doing something you're passionate about. So it sometimes feels that, at least in a sort of white collar sense, these jobs, it's almost like you may as well get dicked around making something you care about than getting dicked around making something you don't. But that is also how they get you. So
it's really sad. My heart goes out to all the Activision Blizzard employees who receive that news in such a cold and hard way and have to reorganize their entire lives around it now. That's it.
Yes, it really, really sucks. I think the only sort of potential, not even silver lining, light at the end of the tunnel for this stuff is that ultimately, though, game development is an enormously skilled, expertise driven thing that isn't possible without people to do it. And hopefully we get to a point where, now that distribution is so much more straightforward in a lot of ways, etc., that these big corporate apparatuses that are capable of abusing people at this scale lose some of their sway. Like that would be my, not hope, because I don't want anyone to, well, I don't want people whose lives to be thrown into disarray. But I think you have to wonder nowadays about the role of a really big publishing company in an industry that is increasingly about smaller, single properties, mid-sized studios, that kind of thing. Maybe I'm talking bollocks.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
A little tidbit, and it was the Activision side of the Bungie thing, where Activision said, we're happy to get rid of them because, for them not to be with us anymore, because that means they don't have to support that game anymore. And the interesting thing from that, that game being Destiny, there's a little bit about the fact that the Forsaken update hadn't had the success that they were hoping for. But then the interesting thing in it is that it was actually taking up, of course, other Activision studio time.
Right.
I can't remember the Vicarious Visions and I can't remember, but they worked on a lot of what Forsaken is and things.
A lot of the PC conversion and port work was done by Vicarious Visions. Yeah. And
there's another studio as well, which I think actually designed and made there's a lot of expansion content. So in getting rid of Destiny, they've actually freed up resources that they claim.
Yeah, but then that seemed, at least the way it was PR'd, it's a mutual parting of ways, and actually Bungie gets to keep their IP and they get to keep their studio, get to keep making stuff. It wasn't like an investor call that suddenly just switched off a load of jobs in the,
Yeah, exactly.
It's just such a different type of, it's almost the way you want things to go. People, so Bungie can go off and just keep on being successful on their own terms. But they've not been just let go of or shattered or smashed apart, which,
Yeah, man. I mean, this process is, talking about, last week, and this, we can maybe segue off this. So last week when we talked about, Apex Legends, it was sort of, oh, hey, look, this has happened and it's really good. It's a week later and now it's huge. It's,
what's the latest? Is it 2 million?
I think they've had 25 million players.
25 million players, 2 million concurrents.
Yeah. Extremely healthy.
Yeah, very good.
And I feel, my feeling about it was I'm really happy for Respawn because I feel like they deserve a hit.
Because they always felt like oh god, Titanfall 2, oh god.
Yeah, but let's think about it, right? This is the, Respawn's founding was a story because these are the people that made Call of Duty a thing. And they didn't invent Call of Duty, but they were the people that, did they?
Yeah, I think so. I think Zampella was. I think they were on Call of Duty 1.
Yeah, but nonetheless, right, it wasn't a thing until Modern Warfare. Right. And, and the era of the last 15 years of multiplayer shooters is entirely defined by their work. So it feels like it's a bit overdue that they return to that and do it again. You know what I mean? Like, this, coherently demonstrate skill in a space. Because I think Titanfall did that, but it was too niche. And they did twice, and it was also sent out in odd times a year, and it wasn't really given a chance, I think.
Yeah, the second game was within 7 days of Battlefield 1 and 7 days of Call of Duty Infinite.
Yeah.
Infinity even. Which is a remarkable time to release a shooter between the other two.
Yeah. We pointed it out last week, but and they've sent out Apex Legends at exactly the right time to do exactly that to Anthem.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know what's going on at EA. It's a very puzzling pattern.
Yeah. But I think you can point to, it's taken a couple of years, but I'm quite pleased for Respawn that they've got a success like this. Because, it feels like, I don't know what obviously the future for that is necessarily, but despite obviously the fact that it's an Origin game and it's part of the EA apparatus, it very much feels like a one studio sort of project. It doesn't feel like it's been, kind of cobbled together out of the work of 16 different satellite studios making maps and stuff. It's very much like a coherent, set of designers and artists making a thing, which
and a bit
is
of
great.
and design, it's not just the assets.
Real design,
it's a coherently designed thing, like the systems all complement each other.
Yeah, so it makes for quite, talking about AAA stuff and how doomy and gloomy it makes for quite a kind of happy success story. I don't think EA's positioning of it makes any sense at all. And in fact, it sounded like, I think it was Vince Zampella who said that it was Respawn that decided to just release it.
Really?
Yeah, with no warm up, because they didn't want people to be disappointed it wasn't Titanfall 3. So if they announce it, then there's 6 months of,
what about all the robots?
I can't believe you're just doing a battle royale kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it comes out and people maybe like it. Whereas this is just you get that out, people still say that, but they almost don't have time to say that because they're too busy downloading it.
And also enjoying it.
And then enjoying it because it's really good.
Yeah.
So, because that felt like an extremely un-EA move.
Un-EA.
Oniony. It was an extremely oniony move. Yeah. And it's great. And I remember, Marsh was around, last week, I think. And and I went for a coffee and I said, I've been playing that new, Respawn thing that came out last night. And maybe this is a very Marsh stance. It was is it doomed? He was like, oh, is it doomed? And I was like, no, I don't think it is. It's really,
everything might be okay.
Yeah. It's
this time.
And have we all been playing Apex now? Because I rambled on about it last week, but.
Yeah, I've played about 10 games of it. I've also gone back to Titanfall 2 again, just to play through the single player campaign after playing it. And man, Respawn are good. They're just really good at making running and jumping and sliding and shooting feel fucking amazing.
I'm not very good at the shooting though. There's something I've struggled with this.
It takes a while.
It's a certain feel that I haven't quite grasped. I've probably played, 20, 30 matches or something now.
I've played a lot of it. I don't want to say how much.
I mentioned this to you.
Yeah.
I've had a significantly higher quality game on PS4 than I have on PC.
Interesting.
Found PC people going off on their own, not marking anything, not using the contextual cool tools, communication tools, and being dicks. And I've only had one extremely petulant little French boy, and that was my only really annoying experience it was last night. And I would say that every other word was a French swear word that I knew, putain. Got that quite a lot. And this was at me. I could tell it was me. He got very angry because I was a jump master as well. Jump master is the person when you're in the vehicle, when you're in the flying over the map at the start of the round. One of the team of three gets to be jump master, and you choose when your team of three is going to jump out of the vehicle.
You can pass it on
where
to the
you're
next
going.
person.
You can pass it on, and anybody can jump on their own if they want. But usually you stay together. Putain. Oh, it's so good. And the other people I play with have just been I've never had open comms to be so attractive. This is all on PS4. When you first hear it, you hear the sort of the scratchy noise and you think, oh God, how do you switch off? I couldn't find anywhere in the menus to switch off audio from teammates. But actually everyone's been really nice. There was this northern couple of lads who who were just really excited about everything that happened, and like, he's in the building, he's in there, and I got like, this is good, this is like, we're properly into this. And then like, I was on one-on-one with, like another squad member, and they were up and they could, on a sort of a cliff edge, and they could see me up and they're going, go on, rotational, go on. And then like, and I did win, but then I was knocked down, and then they came down and resuscitated me. And like, it's like, this is what I hoped multiplayer gaming was going to be. PC though, pile of turds.
I've had no negative experiences on PC.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder whether it's because I played at strange times. It kind of,
I know,
strange people play.
The witching hour.
Oh no,
just all werewolves. No, so I've had like very occasional like people running off by themselves, but like, and occasionally like it was necessary for me to eventually pass like. There's definitely not a meta emerging, but there are styles emerging, and I've gotten a sense now of like how I like to play. And the one thing I admire about it is I feel like PUBG, I would set so much the template for this. You learn after a couple of hours, dozen hours or so, like what's likely to be a spicy drop and what's a kind of comforting walk in the woods kind of game, right? And that's the thing I like about this genre actually, is you can sort of pick the type of game you want. Like if you want a deathmatch straight away, just drop on the big city.
Yeah.
If you wanna spend half an hour walking across the woods only to be shot in the head by someone you didn't see, then you can drop someone more remote. And, one of the many things that's so good about Apex, I think, is the fact that like, it makes it very clear there are many different types of that, and it makes it very clear, what they are. And then there are the subtle gradations of it as well. So you have the big glowy blue pillar of light at the start, which is like this area will have a higher tier of loot than it normally would.
Yeah.
And then you have the loot ship, which I think I talked about last week, where it flies. You can see where it's going to go, but also you can see the flight path of your drop ship, and you can do some cool stuff where you can kind of calculate, if we jump at this point, we can actually get to it before it lands. And you get all of those stuff. And then there's loads of like remote places. And then there are people have favorite locations and places within the map that people like to drop to. Like there's a place called the Pit, which is, me and my friends started calling it the bin, because it's just like a big circular bin, and you can get straight in the bin, which is like, which is sometimes, if people don't know it, there's usually quite good stuff there. But occasionally you'll see another team and it'll be too late to abort, and then you're all in the bin, and then it's like the thunder bin, and everyone's wrestling in the thunder bin. And I found that, playing it more and more, like, playing it mostly with strangers, like, if I'm Jumpmaster playing with strangers, I won't go for any of the really spicy options unless they're very enthusiastic.
Yeah, they're all sort of like picking it.
Yeah, because the team that wins, like, when a bunch of teams land in one place, it's madness, because melee damage is quite high, like, you can punch people quite hard. And people who get guns first have an advantage. But really it comes down to, like, what team is able to coordinate better. Like, if there are two guns on the floor, most people playing by themselves will hoover up both. And whereas if you can coordinate with your mates and say, get over here, get this other gun, then you'll win that entire encounter and it'll be really worth it. So that has sort of helped, because then I'll sort of like, if I'm Jumpmaster, I'll drop my team of randos. I'll be very clear about it, ping it, we're going here. And that's all worked really, really well. In fact, the last game I played at lunchtime today, who won, was just two really lovely dudes, like no voice chat at all, just
everybody just pinging stuff, and
just good pinging.
Yeah, we got my last match last night was we got second, and it was a good pinger. Pinger.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? I've had nothing but really positive experiences online with them on both PS4 and on PC.
Cool.
Occasionally whenever you see a person peel off and just go elsewhere on the map, that person's a jerk. But they're introducing solo modes and duo modes like in future, so those people will hopefully go into the solo playlist and stop becoming a problem. But even then, like if someone peels off and just does their own thing, it's fun to kind of still get updates about what's going on with them. Like if they're down somewhere, it's like, yep, that's a bit of Schadenfreude right there. I'm quite enjoying the fact that they're going to stop their solo run.
Good.
But then also it becomes like, oh, there's just two of us now, and I feel like even a stronger bond with that other person we've stuck together, and we're at a disadvantage, but now, it matters even more, like we're against the odds, and it's that underdog kind of story.
There's also so much good design in it, and I think it's worth talking about probably several times because it's not just the right battle royale at the right time. It's a really well designed game.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's so much you can talk about. Like, it feels like the reason Titanfall 2 is so good is, you know, they have a bunch of original ideas in it, but also just everything feels so good. And the stuff in this that I can't remember from Titanfall, like, yeah, we talked about, I think they lost wall running and they've lost some of the stuff, Titans. But the way when you jump into a wall, you scramble up maybe 4 or 5 feet from where you hit the wall.
It's really generous.
Is something that should be in every first person game. Like, and it, you know, it's like, it's not wall running. It's like, ledge grab generosity, but you have to kind of hold the jump button and keep moving into the wall to do it. And it's really cool because it, you know, there's so many subtle things like that you enormously feel the benefit of, but that's not easy to come up with and implement in a way that is so consistent in terms of what jumps can be made and what can't. And
the map needs that kind of thing. Like I'm really enjoying the map design because, it's actually like, it looks very big from when you're flying over it, but actually it's like the perfect size. Like it's so good at making sure that action and excitement is very close always, but giving you space and really kind of controlled sight lines. And, you know, so the snipes from nowhere, like it happens, of course, but by no means, you know, it's quite a rare thing to genuinely be hit from something you weren't aware of. Like the distance you can see is really nicely controlled. The dynamic nature of the match, like you know, you've got very high places next to low places all the time. It's up and down, up and down, up and down. It's exciting to traverse. Like you're never doing that thing in PUBG where you're just running for a minute across open, flat ground. Like, you know, there's always cover nearby. There's always something of interest to kind of negotiate or make a choice over.
There are very carefully constructed choke points as well.
Yeah.
Like, there's a canyon path through the center of the map. Yeah. That is so dangerous because, like, I remember getting caught in the middle of that and you were being attacked from 2 different directions. Yeah. And, you know, for essentially a kind of open world environment to create those actually quite tight shooter situations. Yeah. The map does that all the time. Yeah. And some of the areas are actually kind of zoned as though they're their own little multiplayer maps where there are maybe like 2 or 3 ways in, but it's actually a shooter level designed, almost like a bespoke design for a shooter.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. There's little pools. They're just, they're like multiplaer maps.
Yeah. Like, just like a fully constructed multiplayer map. And you just get used to it.
And really distinctive. Like,
right. Yeah.
I thought when I started playing it, this is a lot of map to remember. And then like, hey, I was here like in the last game. I remember this place. Yeah, I jumped on this very place and like I thought it was so big. And that's a real asset. I don't know what it would be like over time. My instinct is that there's so much of it and it's so interesting that it will sustain interest. The fact that I'm coming across things over and over. But it's
just so much. Like the fact that you press E or the use button to pick something up, unless it's worse than what you're holding, in which case you have to hold it, which is just fucking genius. Like, because you auto equip it if it's better than what you've got. Like, that's almost like the Diablo team should nick that. That's great. Yeah. Like, that's like, you know, there's 2 kinds of picking something up. And one of them, you spam the button and you just hoover up all the loot and you automatically upgrade yourself. And one of them, you make choices. That's really good. That's super great UX design. Like, there's so many like things it takes from PUBG that I like PUBG's ballistics, which has a sort of, every game has a kind of realistic aesthetic, but it has, you know, it has, exaggerated bullet drop in order to allow you to feel like you're making more realistic shots because you're accounting for bullet drop, which you wouldn't have to do at the ranges that the game is usually, you know, played at. And that involves in PUBG watching YouTube videos where you learn how to gauge distance in the game, what the markings on a 4X sight mean and how to plan for them. Apex has all of that, but it makes it far more accessible without really removing the fun of doing it right. So if you're sniping in Apex, your scope, when you put your cursor over somebody, will tell you exactly how far away they are in meters, but it's on you to know how to use the little pips and markings on your actual scope to like aim up the correct amount. So if they're 200 meters away, you move it up to the 2 mark and that kind of thing. And that will get you the approximate right bullet drop. So there's still lots of skill in like landing a headshot from really far away, but it's not quite as sort of opaque as it is in PUBG. The other thing I think is really cool about it is like, because of the rhythm of reviving people when they're down. The fact that people who are downed are quite fast and can get into cover creates this really interesting rhythm in gunfights, which I don't think I've seen in another shooter, and also the way like the regen items work, like the shield canisters and things that you can kind of put, like they also feel great. Like you're essentially like opening like a huge can of Coke is kind of the feeling, like, like it's that sort of thing. The way he creates this rhythm in combat where if it's two teams fighting, there are loads of choices to make, not just about when to push or when to back off, but when to go revive, when to use healing items, when to take advantage of the fact that your opponents are doing that and push up on them and try and kill them in that gap. That is really, really rewarding if you are playing with mates, obviously, but it's also great for, if you do end up, and this I think helps with the toxicity thing in a really big way. If you do end up on your own or in a duo because someone's disconnected or whatever, it's still really possible to win. And in some cases easier. Like it's not as straightforward as like, oh, we're just kind of boned now. It's actually like, because if I get shot, I'm dead. Like in PUBG, obviously with no down state. I don't know if PUBG has a down state, what am I talking about? But like high lethality and you're extremely vulnerable in your down state. There's no shield you can pull up or anything like that. It's numbers matter a lot, but they matter in Apex, but you get in really cool situations where as the solo player, you can kind of hide a lot and wait for fights to break out between other teams. And then be in position. There's always a moment after a fight ends when a team's really vulnerable because people will rush to loot or maybe they've run out of healing items and things like that.
Yeah.
And because of you have all these big AoE ults and stuff in the game as well as, just guns, you can sometimes end up, soloing. Like someone's running off to revive their teammate. At that point you kill them both. You've just won the game technically 1v2, even though I didn't really feel like it. It's really, really cool. Like, I've been playing a bunch as the character Mirage, who sends out a decoy of himself.
Oh, yeah.
And he's really powerful in a really cool way when the game gets into that state. Because when you've got like a couple of teams left and it's really, really fraught, often the team that loses is the team that engages first because that's what everyone else sees. And any character can try and set that off by trying to bait another team into making that shot and therefore causing the other team to look at them. But because he can send out an illusion to just run across open ground, that's really cool because you can create situations where both of the other teams shoot at the decoy and then see each other and then they fight and then you go in and mop up. And it's like, there's so much stuff like that in it. It's just amazing to dig into.
Being seen is a whole thing in that game. Like, the way they've designed their fast travel mechanic are these, like, it's the gamiest thing in the game, really. Like, these zip ropes, these vertical zip ropes that you shoot up, and then you fly out the top and then suddenly you're back into the sort of start of the game flying state. And that's how you can kind of, if you're way out of the circle, that's the thing you have to do in order to get there, really, is within the right amount of time. And yet, like, it's the most fucking obvious thing.
Yeah, the most vulnerable thing you could do.
Everyone. No one's missing that. No one in the area is missing
glowing, flying squirrel with contrails.
Yeah, and like the healer character, like, their ult brings down a very visible beacon.
I do not like setting that off at all.
You got to be careful with it.
That's such a cool idea, though. The fact that she brings down rare loot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, she could do it, and the decision of like, because I play as that character a lot, is kind of the tutorial kind of, it basically implies that you should probably try out with the healer first, because, you're only going to help people unless you bring down one of these things in a place where other players are, because they're going to see exactly where it's going, because it's the brightest motherfucking thing falling out of the sky, and it slowly decelerates like a kind of moon landing pod.
And you also have to wait quite a while for it to turn up.
Yes,
so basically you're all stuck in place. Like, hey, everybody, could we just stand here around for a minute?
And it's really good as well. Like, you get good stuff in it. Like, guaranteed good stuff.
I think a lot of those abilities like feel quite weird at first, especially if you're used to like Overwatch ults or something where it's like, this is not shade on Overwatch, it's just that if you see ult, you often think, okay, well this one I'm going to spin around and do lots of damage in an AoE, or I'm going to do lots of damage forwards, or I'm going to revive someone from far away, like traditional kind of RPG stuff.
Yeah.
Like all of the ults in Apex are quite weird.
Yeah.
Like the robot places a zipline.
So good. I love that ability.
But it's fucking amazing. And the more I play it, the more I appreciate all the work that's gone into like the synergies. Is super cool. So like, we were in a really rad situation the other day, which was genuinely like, one of those sort of, I ended up, shadow play, clipping it afterwards because it was just one of those cool, like, things that happened where it was, so the situation I was just talking about, final 3 teams, and it's a complete fucking mess. Like, the new circle is on this little base that's on the top of a nearby hill, but everyone is fighting in this kind of muddy valley below it. And we're in the middle, so we're in the boned position, like running around this rock, trying to keep the enemy team on the other side of it. And we put, and then the whole trick felt like a magic trick where basically we threw down the dome shield that Gibraltar has, which is the big shield guy, throw down the dome shield and then fire Bangalore's smoke grenade inside it so that the entire shield fills with smoke so you can't see what's inside it. And then put the zip line in there to the base. And so as soon as the shield goes down, all of the enemy teams are both firing into the smoke, at which point we zip line out the back, like away from the inside of the shield. And I'm just pissing off. And it was just one of those amazing, like, James Bond exiting on a motorbike moments.
That smoke grenade is so good.
Yeah.
I found it super useful. Like, you can control a fight so well. Like, man, it's really, really good. I really want to play lots more of it. But there are literally, like, all the games are coming out at the end of this week.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like, as release seasons go, for some reason, this particular week in February, everything is happening that is going to happen until November or September or something.
Yeah, right.
It's ridiculous. Like, Anthem's out this weekend.
Metro's out.
Exodus is out this weekend. We've got Crackdown 3 is also out. Good luck. Have fun. Crackdown 3 in this release window. It's absolutely nuts. Like, what are you guys looking forward to playing? Are you going to get stuck into Apex, or are you going to try Anthem?
I'm not interested in anything new. I'm just on Apex, a bit of Resi.
Or Resi, yeah.
We should talk about Resi in a minute. I think I will play the sort of adventure portion of Anthem because I do really like the flying in that game. Played a bunch of it a little while ago, and I think I'll talk about it when I played more of it. Yeah. I think it's an interesting
I'm looking forward to it, actually.
The flying's genuinely super cool. My concern for it is that it's a shooter where someone's put loads of love into making an inventive movement mechanic. And
they go well.
I like them, and they never go well. Like, Respawn removed parkour from their shooting system, and now it's like the biggest new game of the year because people hate special jumping.
I think they do it first person, but I'm not sure about third person. Like, stuff like Warframe proves that you can have a very mobile, strangely behaving character in third person.
I feel like we should check in on this when we've probably played. Are you going to play Anthem, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
On PC or PS4? Because I'll get it on whatever platform you get it on.
Probably PC. Well, definitely PC, because we have to write a load of stuff about it.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, because it's still a BioWare game, and they can't help themselves. They could have written loads of fucking lore about it. Because
there's loads of fucking lore. Don't worry about that.
And who knows how much of it is nonsense, but I'm willing to get stuck in. I actually, for the period where the servers were up for me, I actually really enjoyed moving around as there's a very agile character that triple jumps and does a lot of close combat, and had a lot of fun with that character.
Yeah, the Interceptor.
Yeah,
that was my favourite character as well.
Cool design, really. The armor looks
I want to see what people make of slow Warframe, which is kind of what it is. Right. Slow Warframe with flight.
Yeah.
And there's a reason slow can be good. Warframe's an enormously floaty and sometimes imprecise feeling game.
Yes.
That can feel insubstantial because it's so, like, frictionless.
Everything just glides. Like, everything's covered in, lather, and you're a bar of soap being squeezed through these corridors.
You're like a bar of soap being flung down a supermarket aisle.
Yeah. It's like
picking up everything, but you're also in supermarket sweep.
I'm excited, and I really hope it goes well for BioWare's sake, frankly. Also because I think it could be quite a cool game.
Should we talk about Resi? Because I think we've all played Resi.
Reginald Evil.
Reginald Evil. Good.
I haven't played an awful.
Where are we at with it? Because Tom, you talked about it initially.
So I'm at the first. I'm getting towards the end of the first sort of section. There are 3 basically distinct sections.
Police station.
Yeah.
Right. I think I'm where you are then.
Yeah.
I am there, but on my second run. So I've beaten it as Leon, and I'm now running through
Redfield.
it as Claire. Yeah.
Cool.
That game is fucking amazing. Like, I know you talked about how good it was when you...
Surprisingly good, isn't it?
You dug into it, but no, it's like...
by surprise.
Holy shit. Like, I think I'll be surprised if it's not my game of the year. Like, I'm obviously holding out hope for better games, but it's like I was making notes because I really wanted to talk about it now that I finished it, and I won't spoil anything at all, but like, my notes are basically like, go from just sheer like sort of design appreciation to like, oh, it's Prey / Dark Souls, but also a puzzle game. Like,
what's your history with the series?
I've played almost all of them.
Did you play Reginald Evil 1 or 2 at the time?
Yes, I played both at the time. I didn't finish
They were actually
one.
18.
I know. And I was 11 when 2 came out.
Wow.
I played it with my mate Kevin.
Kevin, you should have known better.
What?
Was Kevin scared?
No, we liked the gory PlayStation games. Yeah, like, I mean, I could bang on about it, but I'd be interested to see how you're feeling about it.
Yeah. So my Resi 2 was my first PlayStation game. So I played it when at the very end of my third and final year at university. I somehow, I don't really know how, I think it's because I knuckled down finally and did some work in time for finals. I had some money left over at the end, and I bought myself with it a PlayStation 1, and in the pack was Resident Evil 2 and Gran Turismo.
I remember that pack.
Yeah. Didn't have a memory card for a little while, which was a little bit oversight. So I played the start of that fucking game a lot of times. But, so it was, but like, then I spent the subsequent summer playing that game and really knew it. I've learned it well. I've forgotten a lot, I must admit, but like, I played sort of all the modes and played with Hunk and the tofu guy and all that stuff as well.
We don't have to explain Hunk and the tofu guy.
And, so playing the new one, I was really pleased with how it felt like coming home, but also to a modern game. Like, I just, it was everything that I probably would have wanted if I'd sort of bothered to think about what I would like in a new Resident Evil, remake of that game. Yeah. Cause it was always my favorite one. I liked the crisscrossing, of the paths. Yeah. I love the way that the PlayStation in particular opens up, like you alluded to Dark Souls, like the paths, the pathways in that game are incredibly well designed.
I appreciate I tooted the low-hanging fruit immediately, but I wanted it to I didn't want to be tiptoe around it. Like I wanted to get there and toot
You got to, like, this is a game where like you'll sort of go down a part, like you'll go down a corridor and then you'll end up going down there and you'll find a key and that will open a door and you'll go down into the bowels or something. Then you'll find, shit, I've just unlocked the locked door and the other wing and this is great. And now I've got some item which now opens another place. And it's like, it's very like it is locks and key puzzles. Like it's very abstract, but it does such a good job of situating it in like a known space, like, which was weird, like in the first version of the game, because it was a police station with weird statues.
Well, they explain it. It's like it used to be a museum. So
it used to be an art museum, and you look at the space and think, "Fucking right,
so
that does look like an art museum."
It's like a Wetherspoons just taken over church. Exactly. It's that type of deal, I think.
But it's a police station which is really like closely, like in the first game as well, like really closely imagined, like. The flotsam of kind of police stuff is really well observed. Like now you can go up close to things and, then you can look at the true tragedy of Leon's sad party in that room. Like his welcome party. Like this is all stuff right the close to the start. Don't, this isn't spoilers really, but it's like, it is beautifully made space.
It is. It's lovely. Like, I think, like to clarify the Dark Souls comparison, because I think it's a really specific one. It's not just, it's good. It's a game of, particularly in the police station, and then it's a game of loops, first and foremost. It's a game about going on an expedition from your typewriter, going into an area that is, scary, because it's unknown, kind of mastering it, and then unlocking something or finding the key that opens the passageway or doing something else in the environment that finds you either a new typewriter to save your game on, or a surprising loop back to the original place. And that is fundamentally the Dark Souls structure, I think.
But with one additional thing, which is that you can never quite trust the places you're going down.
I was going to
This was okay, but yeah.
That's gone.
Well, I mean, it was a trick that they did in the original Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 1 as well. But yeah, like, you know that you've gone down a path and you've been down there many times. Once you've got that new key item, you've done a loop and you've come back again, you know that it's the existing spaces have been rewritten just slightly.
Yeah.
And but in a fairly naturalistic way.
And this is why I bring up the Prey comparison. New Prey, most recent Prey.
New Prey.
Because, so you have this loop system and it does a really good job of, teaching you to be careful early. So, and it has but it has multiple ways of encouraging you to not get complacent when you know a loop, because the Dark Souls thing. So if you see, this is the arc I want to describe from a design point of view. The end result of Dark Souls is mastery, right? When you really know an environment and you have that kind of like Groundhog Day mastery of it. You just run through, you know exactly where, you sometimes make mistakes, but you know
where everybody's standing.
Like, you know what your run back to the boss fight is, because you've become this kind of like, time master, right? Yeah. Resident Evil has small ways of fucking you up with that, which are really fun. Like it loves to put a zombie around a corner where you're not expecting it. And then it'll give you a tool to help you deal with that. So in the police station, you can board up windows on the ground floor and that prevents certain spawns from happening. But that's a limited resource and you got to choose which windows you're going to board up based on what routes you think you're going to be doing, that kind of thing. And then, and this isn't a spoiler because it's such a huge thing, but you need to talk about it. It adds the tyrant to the game, who is a big man in a hat who briskly walks at you, that he may punch you to death. And he is introduced at a key point, at a clear point, when he's introduced to that environment. And over the course of the game, it's been, you have the central hall of the police station initially is your Firelink shrine. It's like almost everything links back to it, and it's home. But the tyrant kind of reminds me of, I've forgotten the name of the nightmare from Prey, the monster that can hunt you anywhere, which I think was, inspired by Resident Evil in the first place.
Yeah.
But this feels like, it feels far more systemsy in new Resi 2 than it did in old Resident Evil 2. And it's this brilliant culmination that isn't in Dark Souls of all of that mastery, because then you add this indestructible enemy that has access to all of the same areas that you do. He can go anywhere you can. The only thing that you have to fight him with is the fact that he has very heavy footsteps and you can hear him, and the spatial sound is really, really nice. So when you know the environment well, which is the goal of learning where all the corridors link up, you can tell probably what room he's in from the sound of his footsteps through the floor, through the corridors outside, that kind of thing. Sometimes he's a dick and he just sort of appears. But there's a really, that was when I realized, holy shit, this is really, really well designed. Because you find yourself, initially you do the Dark Souls thing of, I need to do this loop, and that unlocks this slightly grander loop, and I'm going to keep doing the grand loops until I've mastered the environment, then I move on to the next one. That is still the case, but when you get to the last stage of that, you're also planning the loop based on how you can bait the tyrant in one direction, because your actual goal is somewhere else, and you need him hunting for you in this set of rooms, so you can sneak out through this other route you know about to get out. And it's like this kind of, 4D chess thing you're playing that is so fucking cool.
He's a lot less digital than he was in the original. It's very Alien Isolation-y actually as well.
It is as well, yeah, it is. Which again is one of my favorite games. So it's got that, it's really, really great. I feel like to sort of map it, there's a spectrum with sort of pure sandbox immersive sim at one end and pure puzzle game at the other. And Resident Evil's far closer to puzzle game than your Deus Exes and Preys and things, which is space it shares with Dark Souls, which is also on the puzzle game end of the spectrum when it comes to simply how do you gain access to a space. There's lots of things in Resident Evil that you can't do, which you would be logically able to do if it was a real environment. There's only one way to break chains, and it is the chain cutting thing, right? So it doesn't even encourage you
shoot the lock, god damn it!
Yeah, right. You have to be able to, give it the benefit of the doubt for that, but it's so satisfying to. I think you get that initial kind of shoot the lock, god damn it, but then you kind of think, you relax into it. This is a digital game. You either can do something or you can't. And then, but the areas of freedom it does give you are amazing. The fact that the zombies are all persistent.
Yeah.
So it's not, there are spawns to some extent, but a zombie is a zombie. And what you do to them it just has happened to them now. So initially, and, like this, I think you talked about this when you first talked about it, Tom, but the system where if you shoot a zombie in the head, if you shoot it in the head 3 times, it'll go down for a bit. Next time you go into that area, it'll probably get up again. If you, occasionally when you shoot it in the head will explode, at which point it's down forever.
Yeah.
But that's a random,
dice roll.
It's a
really
dice roll.
Yeah.
And you're gambling with your ammo and you want it, but you can't have it. If you shoot a zombie in the knee 3 times, the bottom half of its leg comes off. And this won't even incapacitate it immediately, but it will be dragging itself around on the floor forever. And so that is in itself an amazing risk reward thing. You can go for the headshots in the hope of removing something forever, or you can incapacitate every zombie in the level and just end up with rooms full of these people that can still surprise you because they'll just lie on the floor in a weird place.
I had the most grotesque one where there was this one crawling around on the floor, but there was another corpse of a zombie lying there, and it was crawling through this corpse. But it was in a very dark room with a kind of, with light, quite bright light shining across it.
Yeah.
And all you can see is this writhing ragdoll. You don't know which bit was, animated to shoot at. And so, fuck it, I'll run off then. Oh, God.
Yeah, it's gross, isn't it?
The only other thing I wanted to say about the design is like, I think you touched on like, I think you made me buy it, Tom, when you said that when you've got everything in a room, the room goes blue on your map.
Yes.
Taking away that
very
anxiety.
good.
I didn't realize how deep that system goes. It also does it for items. So like keys and things. Once you've used, it's metagame information, but it's so welcome. Like,
yeah, well, go on. Yeah, I was got a question about this.
When you've used a key, in all of the possible places it can possibly be used. So every door it will unlock is open. That's the same is true for like the chain cutting, bolt cutters. Once you've broken every chain they can be used to break, the item gets a little tick in your inventory, at which point you can delete it. And, the game has told you don't need this ever again. So it takes away the inventory panic. You get the inventory management challenge, which is interesting, but not the panic of, I need to hold these bolt cutters forever.
I'm trying to remember the original game. I think you just, once you've used that thing for the last time, it disappears.
I'm not sure.
Some items do vanish when you use them. Some don't.
Because honestly, I don't really like it because every time I sort of feel, oh God, because, okay, so this is, now, I'm just going to give you a minor spoiler warning. You just don't listen for the next minute or so. But this is pretty minor. I threw away one of the keys. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure at the point that I walked to a new save room, and on the whiteboard on it with a key taped to it with writing on the whiteboard saying, "You forgot your key." And I'm sure it's one that I threw away. And I'm sure that key had a tick. Now, I say sure. What I mean is, I think so. Because it's not a new key, because it was a spade.
So maybe you're right.
But did you come across that whiteboard?
Yes. And I didn't throw anything away in my first
and there was something taped to it. Okay. And that, you can now listen again. We've stopped talking about.
But I love that because, so the other thing is, so the downside to all of this is it's not a hugely long game. I think my first playthrough took 6 hours and the police station is the showcase environment in terms of all that stuff. It feels like all of the subsequent environments with very slightly based on the character you're playing are like tests of all the skills you've learned in the police station. And they're cool. And I really liked playing through those environments and there's grim things to discover. But it doesn't, Dark Souls is a big old game and, it's not that at all. I say that as a caveat. I really liked that about it. I appreciated so much being able to finish it. I almost didn't want it to go on forever.
But you've also got like a second adventure, which properly crisscrosses. You get new areas and you get new insights into the same events you already played.
So that's the thing. In order to see everything, it's at least 4 runs because every character has 2 different, there are 2 characters that have subtle differences and a few major differences in their campaigns. And then each character also has an alternate version of their run, which has a different ending. So like there's lots of game there.
But it's tight game.
It's very tight. And I really like that because I'm now, as I say, towards the end of the PlayStation with Claire. And what's been really fun about that is I've learned shitloads and it's designed that way. Like the second time you do it, you know all the safe codes, you know all the locker codes, I've been writing them down as clues for myself, and that physical thing I wrote down still exists.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting items earlier, but I think they plan for that to some extent, that, that's the easy thing. But also every single thing I've learned about when I go into rooms and there's corpses on the floor, I slash them all with the knife. Because it doesn't use up any of the durability on the knife, but any of them that are zombies will get up.
Right.
And that's just like a thing I learned.
Yeah.
And applying all that information, I've had this amazing run, and I wanted to get on to talking about the characters, because I liked the characters, and I found Resident Evil has a ridiculous story, and it is ridiculous to the end.
Yeah.
And I love the way they've modernized Resident Evil 2's story without taking away its biggest, campiest moments.
Yeah.
But I found those characters quite entertaining and enjoyable to spend time with, both of them actually. And I think this works perfectly, but because I was learning the game, Leon is a bit of a bumbling, hapless guy who gets into weird situations. Yeah. And now, because I feel really confident with it, Claire is extremely competent. So I've only used one health item so far at all, because it's, and every zombie in the police station has lost their leg below the right knee. Because she just walks around your legs off, your legs off, your legs off, and then just runs in little sort of weavy sort of S shapes around every single person. Yep, need this, go there, do this. It's great.
Does she have as many exclamations as young Leon?
I really wanted to talk about Leon's exclamations. Hers aren't as good as Leon's.
So Leon, 3 hours into the game, he's still saying, "What?
Why?
Son of a bitch! Why?"
The thing is, the great thing about Leon, so this is when you see a zombie. So to some extent you have the thing of why are you still surprised that this is happening? Also because you've run through here 4 times, you've seen this zombie. But actually they almost account for that for a bit, because it's not just, oh no, or fear. He sometimes just sounds a bit frustrated.
Yeah, it's oh no.
There's one of his being grabbed by a zombie things. He's oh, for God's sake. It's get Stuart, just sit down. This is really weird. Claire has one which is what the hell is wrong with you?
Oh God.
It's really good. It's basically a lot of them are for fuck's sake, which is which is quite good, because it's almost how you feel as a player if you run around the corner and there's a zombie where you weren't quite expecting one.
But it does get a little kind of yeah, and just don't be surprised. Don't be surprised.
Yeah, that's so good. They said, oh, what the, it's obviously a zombie again, isn't it? I've had that moment though, that it does do some cool and cruel things with enemy placement.
Oh, good. I must admit, I do find Leon, he's a dick. He is a dick.
I quite like him.
Do you like him?
Yeah, it's quite sweet. His, I like how both the protagonists of Resident Evil 2 are really young.
Yeah.
They're sort of 19 and 20, basically. Yeah. And they actually, it's rare for a game protagonist to feel, to come across as actually genuinely young. And you're probably not deep in the story, enough in the story yet to have Leon interacting with people.
No, there hasn't had an awful lot to do.
But I quite like him. I don't know, Tom, you've heard that.
Not quite far enough. He's only really interacted with, most people are zombies at the start.
Yeah, that's true.
With the odd.
There's always Marvin, who's going to be fine, even though he's visibly holding his guts in.
Completely fine Marvin in the safe zone, yeah. He'll be fine. We've all watched zombie movies, they always turn out well.
Yeah.
So your interactions with him, I think most of the personality you get about Leon is based on little notes around the fact that he was supposed to turn up earlier than he did, right? And that he would, they always treat him they patronize him basically as a rookie. And, so he's already kind of he's always already a kind of diminutive figure. He's not a action hero.
He's no Chris Redfield. He's not
Chris Redfield at all. He's floppy haired, new recruit, doesn't know what he's getting into. He's had the entire police station not dissolved into Zombieville, they would have just hazed the shit out of him, and he would have just been probably quite bullied, and then eventually you get that impression about his character, which is a lot to get out of essentially a B-movie premise, which is what Resident Evil has always been.
It is definitely a B-movie, but there's something quite... I find the characterization and the acting, the mocap and stuff pretty good, actually.
The facial animation is fantastic.
Very, very good.
And I think actually you're absolutely right about that youth thing, because I think that's a very Japanese sort of, I think that there is a type of, the time that game came from.
Yeah.
The sort of player characters often were young to sort of give presumably what, you know, like traditionally young playership, something, characters that they could engage with, and like doing the little kid growing up to be the hero was like a regular thing. And I think that like Resi 2 definitely followed in all that.
There's just I find it quite sweet. Like there are beats in that story that haven't changed from the 90s version that I think are, you know, I think you could criticize now exactly the kind of conception of the narrative. Essentially, each character has a different companion later in the game. And those are drawn down pretty standard action movie lines. I feel like you could
Leon's one is, oh God.
Actually, well,
she always, this character was always terrible.
Ada's cool I don't know if you...
I've met her,
Yeah, I quite like what they do with her. Yeah. They make some really key changes to the story as a whole, which are for the best and are good. Like, I quite liked, cause it is B-movie stuff, but it's sort of well produced, and I quite liked all those characters, and there's quite good bits in it. Like, there's just good moments of ridiculous acting, because you're dealing with a situation that's completely ridiculous, and it's not a Japanese survival horror zombie game unless someone shouts G. Not G as in OG, you know, GEE, but just the letter G. I don't know why it's the letter G. It's the letter G in House of the Dead. It's the letter G in Resident Evil. But yelling it, that's important. You gotta, like, there's just, I just find it quite just sort of front to back really enjoyable.
There's one other thing I wanted to talk about, which is the aiming reticle.
Ooh.
Like little bit of design thing that I really love in it is that it's a game that loves really plays around with the idea of standing still to shoot. So this obviously comes from, you know, a game which was notorious for its controls and having to stand still to shoot. And this one, is a third person game, like free view. You can run around, you know, with some normal third person controls, but it makes you stand still to shoot because of a really cool reticle design where any movement and the reticle design is huge. Like the reticle opens up massively, and it will randomly go and you're not going to get your headshot. And in a game where every shot, like you are worrying about ammunition, you need that reticle to close down to the smallest point. And this game knows that. And if you give it that time, it will close down to an absolute pinpoint and you'll get a perfect shot.
Nice.
And you feel skillful for standing still. It rewards you. Basically, it means that in making you stand still, being a bit of a, you know,
exposing yourself, basically.
Being quite cruel about it. It's actually making you feel incredibly cool and skilled for getting skill, you know, accurate shots. I think it's a really subtle thing. And like, I don't know, lots of games do that with reticles, but this one is so extreme because it's doing it because you're so inaccurate at very short range, even if you've moved, you know. It's good.
And then also that plays with the characters' different weapons as well. Like they both have a pistol at the start. In fact, the only thing that sort of took me out of it at the beginning when you play with Claire instead of Leon is it makes less sense that Claire just has a gun. Like at the beginning of the game, like Leon is a police officer at the end of the day, where she just shows up, like, just going to find her brother, with a huge hand cannon on her hip. And it's like, okay, fine.
Oh, does she have that? Cause doesn't,
no, she has a gun from the start.
Yeah, cause does she have the gunshot bit at the start? Is that her?
They have the same intro.
Okay.
Pretty much. Like, they have different dialogue, obviously.
Did they strip that out from the original then?
The gun shop is in it.
Okay.
But you haven't got there yet.
Okay.
I think.
Remix.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Like, they swap around things from the original Resi 2. In cool ways that make a lot more sense, because I don't know how much you remember about the ending of Resi 2 on PlayStation, but there's some weird bits in that, and they do a lot to preserve the spirit of those moments while making them make sense. I don't want to say anything because I genuinely want to avoid spoiling stuff, but like, cool. I rewatched the ending of Resident Evil 2 on just to kind of remind myself, like, did that actually happen? Yes.
Yeah, no, it definitely did.
Yeah, it does. It's dead good.
This reminds me. So, this was made in the RE engine, which is very beautiful. Like, it's very, very good at lighting, and it's very good at like face textures and face animation, stuff like that. I've also been playing Devil May Cry 5.
Oh, have you?
And I've only just realised that I can talk about this now because the embargo's been up for like a week.
Is that another thing coming out this week?
It's coming out next month.
Next month.
Oh, thank God for that.
I played it for 6 hours and it's fucking brilliant.
Oh, I'm really glad.
It's really fucking good. Like, I was really surprised and excited about it. It is such, like the Resident Evil 2 remake, is a really clever look back at the whole series that also introduces cool new shit and proper, like, you know, exciting modern characters and modern ways of slashing demons into like a million different bits. So there are 3 characters in this game. There's Dante, isn't it? And Dante can switch between guns and his melee weapons with like the triggers, and he gathers them, and you get the whole history of I keep calling it Resident Evil, the whole history of Devil May Cry in this one character. He can switch between his, 4 of his classic styles, like Trickster, like Royal Guard on the D-pad, and the control scheme gives you access to the entire series, that you've ever played with Dante through from the first game to the 5th. You'll be able to access that ability on the fly, and you'll be able to create, combos on the fly with everything that he's ever had.
Is that from the start of the game as well?
So he comes in like a bit later.
Right.
But, this isn't like a spoiler because they've reveled who
it's Devil May Cry, right?
It's Devil May Cry, right? You're gonna play as Dante.
They once pretended you weren't going to play as Dante for a bit.
They tried. He's got new weapons, like, there's a motorbike that he breaks into 2 and wields as dual axes and then occasionally, puts back together, and then you can do attacks with it's a full motorbike as he rides around the arena and kills people.
Fair enough.
Classic, good Devil May Cry stuff. But he's like he's the least interesting part about the game, and he's, he has the whole series contained within him. You also play as Nero, who has these kind of like exploding arms that he kind of, before you go into a fight, you arrange 4 arms in a sequence, and you can blow them up at any point to create.
What do you mean in the arena?
Sorry, before you go to a mission.
Yeah.
You have like a loadout of these
I see, of arms.
Of arms.
Are we talking about arms?
We're talking about,
or are we talking about arms?
We're talking about arms that go on your elbow.
Cool.
And some of them are rocket arms that you can shoot out, and they like combo enemies at a distance while you're doing your business in close quarters.
Doing
your business. And some of them are like the first
doing some accounts.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing a deal.
Yeah, the rocket arm fucks up your enemies as you're, sorting your life out. There's like the first one you get puts out like an electric palm attack that can do like massive damage at the end of a combo. And they all basically there are 8 of them throughout the game, and they all have different specialties, and they all create different combo opportunities for that particular character.
So when you say you create a loadout of them, does he have 4 arms now?
They're on his,
this is a concern.
Yeah, they're on his belt.
Oh, I see.
But you said elbow.
Oh no, it says he puts one on the elbow in order to use it. Yeah, his left or right, I can't remember which arm. One of his arms gets ripped off at the very start of the game. And this has been shown in like marketing materials and stuff.
Yeah.
And
because he has a special hand in Devil May Cry 4.
He's got a devil hand.
He does have.
He's got a demon hand, but it only does one thing. Like, he can't do.
It's just devil.
It's just devil. He just does devil. And in this game, he has 8 things. Like, well, actually, it's more like 16 to 20, because the arms can be used in lots of different ways. You can explode them in interesting ways. And, also they all have multiple kind of applications. There's one that just like lets him just boost around the place. Just like do massive kind of dodges and stuff. I'm not explaining this well, but he's, this is like, he's probably the main character. The skill ceiling on him is enormous because of these various weapons. Because Devil May Cry is essentially always a game about improvisational combos and trying to create the best, the coolest looking shit and the highest like style rank that you can.
Is it flashing at the top of the screen as
yes.
of old?
Does it say savage?
It says it's a savage. Yeah. And it like this is all in the game now, so the music kind of crescendos and changes, and the music is different for each of the 3 characters. So
cool.
The Dante one is like Dante themed, and the Nero one is Nero themed based on previous games. But I want to talk more about the 3rd character, who is completely new, and it's just called V. And
V?
It's just called V.
V. It's not Virgil.
He's not Virgil. He's just V.
Okay.
And he is very mysterious, and he has a long leather jacket
Ooh.
Sleeveless though.
Oh,
So
oh dear.
So a Final Fantasy 15 character.
It kind of is. No,
He's one of the boys.
Yeah.
And he looks, so he's got a cane and he rarely uses it, but when he uses it, it's very important. And he doesn't have guns and a big sword. Instead of the guns and a big sword, he has different demons. He's got a close combat demon, which is like a shape-shifting panther.
My CQC demon.
He's got a CQC demon, and he's got a long-range kind of eagle, like a demon eagle that fires electricity out of its mouth.
So a CQC devil and a deagle.
And a deagle. And the two are mapped to like the classic, you've got a close combat button in Devil May Cry, you've got a ranged button in Devil May Cry. Instead of actually, wielding these on his person, he actually projects these demons out into the world to attack things. And he also could dodge at the same time. He's very fragile. So it's a totally different style of playing Devil May Cry that is still.
So do you control the demons when they're out in the world?
It's like a sort of almost like a hunter class sort of thing where you're sort of, getting your pets to aggro and deal damage as you kind of dance about.
Elegantly dodge around. And you can pull out a book of like poetry and read it at people as this is happening. And that charges your kind of like devil breaker gauge or whatever it's called. And when that maxes out, you can summon, I think it's called Nightmare.
So does reading the poetry not actually do anything?
Well, it charges your meter.
Oh, I see. Right. But it's not like
Do you actually hear him read it out?
Oh, yeah.
So basically, is there much of it? Like, how much poetry is there?
There's loads of it. I don't know where they got it from, but the acting in it is actually brilliant.
That sounds great.
It's actually brilliant. Like,
what kind of things are the poetry about? Like vases and stuff?
Can't tell. I played it for 6 hours. I have no idea. It's just vague stuff about damnation and
stuff.
And my demons are about to fuck you up. And
I'm going to set my dog on you and then read you from my Tumblr.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Did he write it, or was he reading it from like someone else's book?
It's not clear. It's actually quite mysterious, the origin of the book. It might be a plot point at some point.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. Yeah, here is my Medium post.
Here is my
about death.
Thread. Exactly.
I wrote this when I was 16 years old. My
I love the fact you could do that.
Left me.
The animations in this game are beautiful. So his kind of poise and arrogance as he's doing all this is just sells his character completely. And
is he basically a wizard class in Devil May Cry?
He's basically like Warlock.
Yeah.
He's just basically a Warlock class. Especially because, his demons can't actually kill enemies. All they can do is get them into a near-death state. And at that point, he has to finish them with his cane. And
he just bonks them just gently and they go.
No, he horribly destroys them. So you could teleport and do this. So you lock onto them and you press the kind of cane destroy button, and he teleports forwards, and he'll suddenly reappear. His cane will just be through their eye socket, and then he'll just like turn away, laconically, and waltz off with his leather jacket flapping in the breeze as they explode behind him. And the way you get mega scores with this guy is that you get multiple enemies down to this near-death state, and then you just chain those attacks.
Chain cane.
And then you chain the cane, and each one, like, all the monsters have like different bespoke execution animations based on that, how he would dispatch them. And when you see the SSS rank appear, once he's just gone through a load of enemies doing this, it's fucking amazing feeling. It's gonna be brilliant, and it's going to get mega scores. It's going to be very good.
He sounds like a bit romantic. Like, he sounds like a sort of Shelley Byronic
He's very,
type.
Byronic is a perfect way to describe him, definitely. Yeah. And the facial capture is incredible in this game. It's
Byronic
really
Commando.
Damn it, I should have used that as a strap in my preview. God damn it, it's okay.
You idiot.
If only. I would have thought about it more. Look, it said V's Vendetta instead.
Well, that's also good.
Yeah, not bad. Yes, it's going to be great. The fact that he's just like a sub character in this game, and so you've got these 3 different characters who each have their own levels. There's so much opportunity to replay it and master each different skill set, and each of them is so different and have so much kind of variation and space for improvisation and creating cool combos. There's a photo mode in it, obviously. This game looks amazing, but it's just the most giftable game as well. And Devil May Cry always has been like this, but I think it's going to do super, super well. I hope it does, because, people are just going to share their awesome, room clearances or level clearances. It's going to be super, super good. I really hope that it does well. The only weaknesses so far have been like some boss fights and stuff, which is fairly standard for DMC. But yeah, look out for that one. It's going to be good.
Good luck, Capcom.
Capcom are having a hell of a year, aren't they?
They're doing really well.
Monster Hunter last year, and then
Yep, fantastic.
Yeah,
Great games.
I'm glad. I am really glad that it's so inventive, because my worry was that the response to the fan response to Ninja Theory's DMC would be, don't do anything new with this series, go back and make more Dante Devil May Cry games. And it's great that they're doing Dante right, but I know I've gone to bat for DMC before as well, because I really love that game.
Yeah, it's really good.
And I'm fully willing for it to return to its original creators and be something new, but I'm glad it's something new.
Yeah, I said this in the preview, like, it could so easily have just rested on its laurels and just done another Dante game. But it's very self-aware about, it's almost meta, like how aware it is of the entire series. The fact that Dante exists is almost just to fulfill the wishes of that particular type of fan. And then the other characters allow them to do very new things with the combat space.
Yeah.
It's a great approach.
I would be interested if it refers to DMC at all.
I don't think it will. Like, what I played does not at all acknowledge.
No, but just anywhere in the game.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be curious to see if they acknowledged it, because it still exists.
It does. You can still play it. It's still great. But yeah, I think this is going to be even better, actually.
Oh, man.
Don't expect anything particularly special from the story, but the sort of facial capture stuff, like the performance capture is incredible. Like, it's surprising. Also, it's used to do very melodramatic stuff, but it's incredible. It's really impressive.
It's really interesting how they do that. Like, I'm getting this only from the credits of Resi 2. But, for Resi 2, like, obviously a lot of companies using, like, advanced mocap now. And sometimes it's actors all the way down. Like, I think, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the voice actors did the mocap, and the face capture and stuff like that. There's like 3 layers to it in Resi 2. It's really good, but you have, so I might be misunderstanding something, so pinch of salt, but from my reading of the credits and reading about the production of the game, as far as I can tell, like Leon and Claire and the main characters in that game are each 3 different people.
Well,
there's a voice actor, there's the voice performance, there's a mocap actor, and there is the model that was scanned for the look.
Right.
And they're all completely, completely different people. So, like, there's, I saw someone point this out, so this is not an original take, but like, I think they just went out and found actors for Leon and Claire that look as close as possible to, Leonardo DiCaprio and, I'm completely blanking, Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet. Who was Juliet in that? I'm gonna edit myself saying the name now. Claire Danes. There we go. I've done it now.
Have you left yourself enough time?
For those two.
She might have had a very long name.
But, well, that's the magic of audio editing. Alex.
Are you saying that things are faked?
I'm saying time's an illusion, Alex.
Oh.
And a flat circle. Which is why we're enjoying games from 1998.
Yeah. Over again.
But yeah, like, and, because as far as I could tell, all of the actual performance capture was like all done in Japan with Japanese actors. And so it's sort of interesting, like having, and obviously then localized in lots of different regions as well. And that was kind of an interesting thing to sort of, to see. Like, you go through the credits and you have like, here are all the movement actors. Here are all the looks, the people who provided their likenesses. And here are all the voice actors for different territories. And that is sort of a 3-part kind of way of constructing a character, which sounds like it'd be super cumbersome. And it's kind of remarkable how naturalistic it ends up feeling, at least in Resi.
That's it. Yeah, V looks like a young Kylo Ren. I don't know who the actor is.
Adam Driver.
Yeah,
I didn't splice that in. I remembered.
There's an uncanny likeness there. But it's definitely, it must be modeled after a real person. I'd be amazed if they've constructed that face from scratch.
You're saying you couldn't?
You could never imagine.
You can't imagine Adam Driver.
I don't think you can. I don't think if you'd ever drawn Adam Driver's face, they'd just say, well, "You can't draw. Well, you can't even draw a
Jesus
person."
Christ, Alex!
But he makes sense when you see him. That's the magic of Adam Driver.
The stupid thing is, you're not wrong. shall we do some questions from questions? I've timed this exactly as Tom Senior took a big swig of beer. So, but before we get to questions from questions, I've got a slightly late shout out. We don't tend to do shout outs on this podcast. We're going to make an exception.
I like shout outs.
Oh, we've ruined it already.
Shite outs.
You like shite outs?
Shite outs.
Shite outs.
You're looking at me quizzically.
As the section shall henceforth be known, Shite Outs with Alex Wiltshire. And what's this week's edition?
So we had a lovely email from Jennifer on behalf of her husband Sam, whose birthday it was a week ago.
A week ago?
So
and I realized this with horror that I saw this email a little while ago. And I was like, yes, we will definitely give a shout out to Sam on his birthday. And then last week, for time reasons, we ended up not doing questions, so we missed it. So we've done the podcast thing that happens in podcasts where the birthday shout out is humorously late. Humorous.
Happy birthday.
But not late enough for it to be funny. Instead, happy birthday, Sam.
Happy birthday, Sam.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. And we apologize. Well, I apologize that your shout out is a little bit late.
And that Alex called it a shite out, which is a different matter entirely.
Yeah.
But if you can remember it, we hope it was a nice day.
Yes, we hope you had a lovely day.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if you'd like us to give a shout out or a shite out to a loved one or someone you don't like.
Yeah. That'd be a good name for the section.
Do email us. But next, our first question for the evening. James writes, your vocabulary is limited to that spoken by a single video game character for the rest of your life. Which video game character do you choose? Pikachu?
Oh, it's tough, isn't it?
It is a tough one. It's a very good question.
Very good question.
I think if we're going for pure expressiveness, I think it's got to be Doom Guy. Yeah. I mean, there's pretty much all of the things there.
Yeah, what else could you need to communicate? As a father of two children.
Exactly.
Imagine the life of an actor who makes their money purely off doing pain barks for video games. There's an art to it.
I thought about that today because the Frozen 2 trailer came out today.
You're right.
And that was cool. But there's no speaking in it. It's all kind of like moody music and things. But one moment.
Barking pain.
Well, one moment where, I think Elsa falls backwards off something and goes, ah! I'm like, ah! And I thought that's the only use you've made of Idina Menzel in this. Her lovely voice in this.
And how many takes did it take?
Exactly. I think, there's so many good answers to this because video game speaking is almost entirely funny. Yeah. Like we've touched on a good one today. Leon from Resident Evil would be a good one. Yeah. He allows you to only be Labrador style earnest about things and go, for fuck's sake.
Oh, what now?
Oh, what's this? Oh, shit. Oh, it's a zombie again. Oh, crap. That's exactly what I didn't want.
Do the dotes
they're very expressive. It feels like an obvious choice for me. Like
some
like Axe from Dota or something. I think there's a lot of quite positive energy in the Apex Darlings actually. Mm-hmm. They've got quite good energy. I feel like we can go more classic than that. Yeah. Doom Guy was a good suggestion. I think the novelty of only being able to speak like JC Denton in that kind of like running kind of monotone. Would be very funny for the first week, and then
relatedly, Garrett from the First Thieves, who can be arch always.
Yeah.
They thought I was going to buy some milk,
but I just stole a cup.
There's a particular outburst from characters in anime generally, but also Japanese games, which is a kind of where people respond to a twist in the conversation by just going, what? And this is a whole genre of statement.
You have to know
it's like a gasp, but it's like more forceful than a gasp. It's like putting something out there.
In doing that, like, before I tried it myself, I was amused by the pose that you struck while doing it. It was just sort of like your both arms came out and you kind of clutched the air and tensed up your entire upper body. And then I did it. Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. And I don't know. That is the way I would choose to express myself. That's particular. And it's like, you know how, the expression of, that's good. That's better than me. Just like the expression of, we've done this reviewing games before where we've just gone, just a particular tonality could communicate a lot. And in fact, I think I could do a lot with that type of just utterance.
Yeah, I think they might be richer even than Doom Guy.
I think so.
If that is such a thing possible.
Could it be? Yeah, I don't know.
Max Payne would be an interesting one. Hey! Come by!
Actually, I would love a game about sheep herding. That could
Have you played Dota 2?
Wouldn't it be wonderful, like, a game about yelling at a dog that may or may not do... The Last Guardian is basically this.
There is a herding game. Wasn't there a game from the PS2 called Hurdy-Gurdy? In fact, why am I not questioning? There was a game for the PS2 called Hurdy-Gurdy, which was purely about herding stuff. But then again, when was the last herding minigame that you played in a game, of which there are many that you enjoyed?
Well, most of them involve, so the last one was actually Red Dead 2. And that involves just doing zigzags behind some, whatever the fuck.
Some whatever the fuck.
I can't remember what the animal was. It doesn't even matter.
It's probably cows. Since you're a boy.
Some bison.
You're not a horse boy, are you? You're a sheep boy.
Oh shit, hang on, they might have been sheep.
Shit.
Were they sheep?
I think they were probably sheep.
I think they were sheep.
Yeah.
The one I did anyway.
You sort of like, you fraudulently rustle them.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the thing that happened in the West, apparently.
Can you not?
The fraudulent rustling of the
horse boy. Can you not fraudulently?
That's what I would have called that game, too.
Redeem this.
There's no redeeming the fraudulent hustling of the...
I did enjoy that bit of tutorial text, though, that asks you to zigzag behind the back of the whatever the fucks to fraudulently shepherd them into a town for money.
Just imagining like a baffled
I don't
Red
care.
Dead. What the fuck
I don't care what I'm fucking rustling, but I'm doing it.
I'll rustle anything for you, Dutch. I'll
rustle
this game.
Rustle whatever the fuck.
That is the game.
It's pretty story. It's the game, yeah. It's the story.
You want it rustled, I'll fucking rustle it.
You noticed some tutorial, because I miss all the tutorials.
No, I obviously didn't notice the tutorial, because that's not what they actually said in the game. But, Jesus Christ. Strange game. Not as strange as we made it, though.
Russell, Dussel, Rudussel.
And with that statement, we've well and truly answered this question.
Rinsed it.
Yeah, good. I was going to say Agent 47 would be another interesting choice for this.
He's got a tone, hasn't he?
But you just sound like a certain band of YouTuber.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Next question comes from Simon, who writes, talk of the new Dune movie has reminded me how much I loved the old game set in that universe, and I'd love to see more. So the question is, are there any book, TV, film universes you'd particularly like to see some games set in? But I think we've answered that before, so we really just want to use this as an excuse to talk about Dune.
Yeah.
Dune. I never played the original graphic adventure. Did you?
I did. I think, was it a Westwood or something?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
What, the graphic adventure? The RTS was.
So there was an adventure game which... I think I've got them mixed up. It can't have been made by Westwood, right?
No, I don't think so. Well, it could have been. But then they actually called Dune 2, which was more or less the first in a whole new genre.
Yeah.
A sequel to...
This adventure game.
The adventure game was wonderful. I very, almost magical memories of it as a kid. It had amazing music, and it kind of did its best to capture the scope of that world. You could ride a sandworm, and it actually had segmented animated bits of the sandworm to try and create an impression of, 3D movement through a plane. Yeah. It was really ambitious what it was trying to do. And, I loved the book as a kid. So any sort of brush with it in a visual format.
I tell you what, I would love a proper new Dune game, because I love that universe. I think it's like the first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The first.
Although, I mean, it's not going to happen, I don't think. So the reason why you can't buy Dune 2 today is that, the estate of Frank Herbert will not allow it because they don't feel that it's a worthwhile reflection of his oeuvre. And I think with that comes the implication that they're not really into games.
Yeah, possibly.
And that's not an unreasonable position, to be honest. Like,
well, that's the thing. Like that, I was thinking about it because like I read that book really young. I think I was 6 or 7 when I read Dune. It was really like one of my formative kind of things that stuck in my brain for a long, long time. And I would love like a really, I think maybe the question is like who I would love to make that game. Like whose Dune game would I love to play? And because my fear would be, it's also a setting that's really easy to cheapen. Like, I don't want the Dune game that feels like it has to have sandworms in it necessarily, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've got to have the sandworm boss fight now or something.
God, yeah.
I would want something just sort of in the atmosphere of that universe. Because I feel like if you want sort of like ridiculous, sort of blown out mega Dune, make a Warhammer game. Because God knows they
Warhammer is
blown out mega Dune. Yeah.
Because if you want to do a jihad game, that would be just Warhammer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
Jihad being obviously what they called the Grand War that happened as a result of the events of the first book.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'd love like I don't know what kind of game that is though.
Yeah, because you what on earth game do you make?
But I think it's probably like a gentle 4X or something. Honestly,
there's no gentleness in that fucking game.
No, but like what I mean is like an atmospheric one, like the kind of games Amplitude makes, like the Endless Legend and the Space kind of series, like where loads of beautiful art and a kind of intricate kind of, sort of stellar strategy kind of,
or lore driven, very lore driven, weird,
Crusader Kings kind
of
like,
God, Crusader Kings in space, but with the problems of having to deal with the fucking navigators so that you could actually have that interstellar kind of empire.
That'd be my Dune game.
I'd want to be in those rooms in those places with
You want to be in the room where it happens.
I want to be in the room with the navigators. No, it would like I think cause I watched the David Lynch film literally 2 weeks ago. I sort of watch it every year. Because even though it's a total mess and, famously it was chopped together from like 9 hours of stuff and it's basically impossible to fit that book into a 2-hour experience anyway. But there's actually so much kind of costume and environmental design in that film that is almost bang on point to how I imagined the book being.
Yeah.
And the real thing I want to do in games is, be in the Atreides palace on Dune where it's all booby trapped and, they're trying to clear out the Harkonnen and, you're also wrangling with the political situation with your father and their relationship with the emperor. And it's such an interesting book. It's like a strange mix of intense politics and also spirituality and a lot of other elements. And I think the only way you really get to engage with that is to be in rooms with people talking about it and, in an almost kind of...
See, that's my worry.
You could probably do a sort of saying again really, but a thief game set in that. Maybe you're an assassin, like, going in there, but kind of
could be a Harkonnen assassin.
Picking
Palace. That's a cool angle.
Intel from the discussions you've.
Or there's so many kind of cool spy games you can make out of that, like trying to interrupt the Sardaukar drop onto Dune that happens. So the Imperial shock troops that they drop to help the Harkonnen, like trying to disrupt that whole drop. Like that universe is so fucking cool.
Fremen survival game.
Yeah. Fremen, damn.
Sunless Spice.
Sunless.
No, seriously, the Feldhaus format. So lots of text stories and kind of like, because those games, because I was thinking about it, like, I love the idea of feeling like you're in the room with all the politics and the atmosphere of those spaces, but that's something games are traditionally not very good at. Like,
you break it so easily, right?
What game is that? And, but actually, a game that I've been playing recently, it does reliably conjure the feeling of being in a smoky room as discussions are made is those games, right? Like, I don't know what you're doing in the kind of map layer, what you're carting around or doing in the landscape.
Yeah.
But like, traveling from settlement to settlement or even planet to planet, like engaging in these sort of little intrigues in a text way and then, bundling up your resources and kind of going elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a really good call. But have you considered Mentat Match 3?
Or Mountain, you know, the game where you got the mountain, but where you are the planet, Dune, because you're alive.
You are Arrakis.
Yeah.
Gordon Freeman.
Yeah, what was it?
Very good. Gordon Freeman. No, the Sun in the Skies thing is a really good shout, I think, actually.
Half
Might be a
spice.
good way to do it.
All right, I'll shut up.
Oh, God.
Excited about the film, though, and scared about the film.
Yeah.
Don't want to destroy my childhood memories, but who knows?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of precedent recently for that to be bad.
Yeah. Very good point.
Please don't do a Valerian again. I'll accept another...
Who's doing it?
Who is doing it? The movie.
I don't know. I'm busy pouring a beer and can't think right now.
Okay.
That's how my brain functions.
Tom is unavailable.
My pouring part of my brain is the same as my remembering.
It's about Dune.
I was going to say David Villeneuve because he just seems to take on all those projects, but that's not true, I'm sure.
It's weird. As soon as you said it, I thought, oh, yeah, but the Blade Runner was okay. The new Blade Runner film.
I did like the new Blade Runner.
Yeah, I did enjoy that.
All right, next question comes from Chris, who writes, Dear Crates and Bars, while listening to your latest podcast, at this point it's not the latest, so, bear that in mind. I was shocked, nay outraged, to hear you bad-mouthing Bink Video. The only piece of middleware whose honour I will apparently defend.
Very good.
Do you even remember what life was like before Bink? Watching Aeris get stabbed by Sephiroth backwards and upside down because Windows 98 didn't come with the exact right video coding. I'm amazed we lived through such barbarism. As to where Bink went, it's still an absolutely bloody everything because of course it is. And now a question. Who would win in a fight between Speed Tree and Havoc? Keep on podding, a deeply ashamed man. This, I think, is a more interesting and deep question than it's possibly was even intended to be.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, you've got a fight between absolute but rather sedate profligacy, like infinite trees, as much trees as you want. You want trees, you'll have them, and very fast. Versus the principle of sort of dynamism itself, or at the very least, the principle of putting something on one end of a seesaw and the other end going up.
But does not a tree become...
How can a tree fall without Havoc physics? That's
Exactly.
They can't die without each other. It's sort of beautiful.
Oh my God.
Symbiosis.
How do we...
But if you have too many trees, the whole thing's going to crash, right? Because the physics engine can't handle it.
Too much.
So...
Does a tree fall in the forest if there's no Havoc?
No.
Unless you have
How can it?
Unless you have your own physics.
A bespoke animation
solution.
system, yeah. Someone has to hand animate that.
But maybe Speed Tree provides this service.
Don't know.
Does a tree spin on the spot infinitely quickly and spring up into space if there's no Havoc? Probably not.
I think Havoc wins. Because I like the going...
I see, I feel like what we've actually just described is a sort of quasi-defined, like, a dichotomy, where you have to have both, but like, they're like chaos gods. Like, you have this sort of endless growth tempered by dynamism and the ability for things to sort of spang off each other.
Yeah, I'd be happy if trees were still just 2D sketches that rotated towards you as you walk past them.
Trees and spectators in racing games.
And exactly. And then I'd rather trees were like that, as long as I can still throw stuff at things, which is what Havoc allows, famously allows us to do.
So
Havoc wins.
Havoc. And what's your point? What is your point?
What's the point of you?
What's your damage?
God, I don't know if I can call this one. I think we are all suspended in the kind of, in the sort of liminal zone between the conflict between
The
Speed Tree and Havoc.
conflict.
Yeah. The desire to grow versus the desire to throw something.
And Bink lidlessly observes. He plays it all.
Yeah. I don't know where...
I think bink is just a very funny word. As much as anything, that's why we rag on it, really.
Yeah.
I did look them up a while ago, quite a long time ago. I thought, who the fuck are they? And like, I think that they're a very small studio, like sort of, I had this picture in my head of like a very workaday kind of place.
Because it's called Bink.
I think it was in Pittsburgh or something like really sort of bland place. I can't remember where it was.
Just dunk on Pittsburgh.
Sorry, Pittsburgh. But like just a fairly nondescript place I seem to remember. And like, they must be just raking it in. I had this picture of very earthy kind of like people, like,
what do you mean?
Very,
you've written Bink fan fiction here, Alex.
Just imagine it though. Like, you know, you've got
like the earth types. They're harvesting raw Bink, and they never see the true value of their labour. They're out there in the Bink mines, going in.
No video
powerful. They smell like cinnamon
without their labour.
They just rub it through their fingers. They're kind of they're calloused.
The Bink must
hands. Flow. Exactly. The Bink must flow. And then descending upon them.
He who controls the Bink controls the universe.
There you go. You've got fucking Baron Kotick kind of swanning in,
hoping to control the Bink.
I think the reason
there's a link between the Bink and the worms. What could it be?
The worms in this analogy are video games desired to be cinema.
Is this an analogy? Where are we at?
I don't know.
Someone draw me a map.
I think we're in documentary land. So I think
probably true.
Yeah.
Jodorowsky's
This is why I'll never be Jason Schreier.
What was the question?
I don't know.
I think we've done
wins in a fight between Havoc and Speed Trip.
I think we got 2 votes for two
whoever
votes for
wins.
Havoc wins.
Havoc, good job, Havoc.
Yeah.
And yay for Bink, I suppose.
I feel like Bink exists outside of this conflict because Bink represents games desired to sometimes be a film.
Yeah.
And
yeah. There's
and
definitely
that's
a time
why it'll never be not funny.
There was a time when Bink videos, as we said in the previous podcast, I think, is that they were so far beyond the graphical capabilities of the actual game.
Yeah, I've heard we got a question about this later on, I think.
Oh, so it actually realised the fantasy of the game in a, more lavish way, and that was why you'd kind of strive for it. Try to see those big.
Yeah, in fact, the next question is from Henry, who writes, Dear Crate and Crowbar, in the early years of the medium, games used non-interactive pieces of art as in-game rewards for player progression. A text adventure would show you a picture once in a while to keep you motivated. Later games use pre-rendered or live-action video clips. I fondly remember how I couldn't wait to finish a Command & Conquer Red Alert mission just to enjoy a few seconds of a CGI submarine. Nowadays, any kind of art is available anywhere and all the time. So I guess this reward system doesn't work anymore. Or does it? Keep potting those casts, Henry. So yeah, it's basically that point, right? Like once upon a time,
Bink was
everything. You swell with enthusiasm to see the Bink logo at the beginning of the game as you among the other publisher logos, because it means this game contains treats.
Yes.
Yeah. This game contains nuggets of movie that I can consume as a reward for
and now
we
just blithely click past the Bink.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I mean, sometimes it's not even the Bink. Sometimes it's an in-engine cutscene because we can be shown any image we desire at all times in this, like, reverse panopticon.
I think that reward still does exist. It's kind of it's about real time. It's about the Vista now, I think, isn't it? It's like it's about a 2-3 generation old version of Windows.
It is. And you know what they said? You can't Bink a Vista.
Bink wouldn't run on Whisper. Whisper. Anyway, the nice bungee skybox, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's
but I remember very viscerally the feeling of exactly this, actually, like wanting to get to next Command & Conquer cutscene.
Yeah. That's because you just fancied the lady one.
Well, the lady submarine.
The lady Commando submarine.
I used to, that's why I wanted to unlock all the old Tekken videos and the old early Tekken games. So I wanted to see that big video of King and really enjoy it.
Yeah.
You want to see the amazing endings to Mortal Kombat.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know why, like, I'd love to unpick why it feels like a treat to get to see, like, the bad cutscene. Because things are, But it did. Like, seeing the ending was a genuine thing that...
But then again, like, if you think about, like, the poultry treats that you're handed out, like
chicken nuggets.
Apex Legends, like, you level up, you get the box thing, and you get your little 3 treats. One of them, like, it's a green gun. Like, that is surely the level of remarkableness is lower than a Bink video.
That's a question for the ages. Let's put that to our, I guess, listeners.
See, because I would put that differently. People like everything. And it's almost anything's a reward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about it's
like, I've earned this, therefore it's probably good, isn't it?
Well, if you just say, hey, if you do this thing for 3 hours, I'm going to show you a Bink video. Work it! Like that. And you will.
Yeah, I will, yeah.
And you'll fucking love that Bink video.
Yeah, it feels like maybe that's the thing, is playing a video game can provide you with a sense of ownership over literally any old shit.
That's true. That's the thing about the green gun skin, is that, at least you get to keep that for the rest of the game. Every time you pick up that shotgun, it's going to be that weird green, fucking horrible paint scheme that you unlocked that one time.
Are you saying that the ultimate prize in games is to basically win just running around like
a Bink
huge environment being shot by up to 100 other people, and you're just wearing Bink videos playing like endlessly on your body?
Just old clips of David Lynch's Dune plastered all over you. This is what I am. Yes is my answer.
Sure. Next question comes from Ryland, who writes, "Hello, Magic Cardigans and lasagna lovers. On the last pod, Pip mentioned Valve getting Richard Garfield. I heard this as getting Rich or Garfield. My question is, if you were to make a game like F, Marry, Kill that began Get Rich, Garfield, or something, what would the last word be? Thank you so much for the pod. I know this is gibberish, but oh well." Ryland. You see, I feel like the question, it's a reasonable question that I don't know how to answer. The question I want to answer is, Tom.
Hello.
Would you rather be Rich or Garfield?
I can't lie. Just want to be rich.
Okay, interesting.
Or
Alex?
Richard, at least. Alex?
I think if Garfield was a normal cat, I would say Garfield, but Garfield is Garfield and is kind of cursed with knowledge.
Just cursed generally, I think.
Knowledge of his existence, and therefore is forever unhappy. So therefore I go for Rich.
Okay. Is Garfield the one that likes marmalade, or the one that likes honey?
He's the one that likes lasagna.
Yeah.
He likes lasagna.
It was the left field.
That was Winnie the Pooh and
Paddington.
Paddington.
The trick to being a cartoon character is to like one particular type of food and have that define your identity.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm not just saying this because I ate a lasagna tonight, but I think I might go for Garfield. And I think that's because the thing we've established, I like that we've gone on this arc from here are the evils of late capitalism as expressed through American corporate culture and the things that are possible that actually and genuinely ruin people's lives, to here's why I think this cartoon cat is a better model for your ambitions than just the concept of wealth. But the reason is, Garfield knows what he does and doesn't like. Money can't get you that. Money just simply gets you the means to make mistakes and to make yourself unhappy and to tie yourself up in a system that wounds other people. But if you just like lasagna and hate Mondays, you know exactly where you are in the world for the short span of your cat life. I find that kind of soothing.
Yeah.
I wish you didn't have to live with a dipshit. That's my...
It might be 2 dipshits, actually. There's 2 dipshits.
Yeah. Well, maybe Garfield...
Dog.
There's the dog. Oh, yeah, the dog's a fucking dipshit as well.
I'd like to be Richard Garfield.
Yeah.
I'd like to be him, that man.
Yeah.
He'd be good.
You found the third way.
It's the third way. It's the centrist way.
Found the non-answer, Tom. I'd rather be Magic the Gathering creator Richard Garfield.
I'd rather be Magic the Gathering creator Richard Garfield.
I feel like any game of Rich or Garfield ends when someone invokes Richard Garfield.
Okay.
And thus, Tom's won. We will obviously be back.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Back for the
applause. First
next round of Rich or Garfield next week. James writes, "Hi CNC. I just wanted to say that Chris is not alone. I too believed that Center Parcs was entirely covered by a dome.
When did you decide you utter this?
My last episode. To you.
What did you...
Oh, wow.
I think I must have written that out of my... Oh.
My fiancé ridiculed me at length when I revealed this last year, aged 35. A quick Google reveals that we aren't the only ones. Clearly, Center Parcs advertising was dangerously misleading. Sincerely, James.
Dangerous.
Yeah, you picked the same word I did.
I need to know. What did you do?
I was so disappointed that there wasn't a dome that I built one and suffocated everybody.
We came with no clothes.
I took
because we thought we'd be covered.
We took it out on the Innocent Eden project. I perhaps embarked on some kind of like vast Bioshockian folly. Like if it could not be built within my society, then I would find a place where you could build dome Center Parcs. And then lots of people died there for some reason.
There's an image of like a very small allotment in Bath that someone's just built a dome over and is running a small but terrifying society within it. And that belongs to me in 5 years' time. It's a good plan.
I love these facts that you don't think you don't know until you realise that you've not thought about them.
Yeah.
Our final question comes from Rock Tart, who writes, "Why is it so cold? My PC is supposed to keep me warm. How can I get it to make more heat?" A topical question.
3D Mark or something like that.
Benchmark that bastard to the next level. As Jeremy
benchmark all the time.
You've got a benchmark, and then once you benchmark the benchmark, bench that shit to the fucking next level. Make sure it's just about to
molten metal,
molten PC inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably the techiest question we've had for a while.
And we answered it the techiest possible way.
Yeah, exactly. Just rig up a big OC, not original character from a fanfic, but an overclock.
Overclock, yeah.
Overclock it in your BIOS.
Everything he's saying is actually correct, I think.
You can overclock that BIOS.
BIOS, yeah. You can. Yeah, no, it's not a stupid thing I was about to say. Yeah,
visit quite a few websites.
Yeah,
just
what you should
do,
play Crysis on max settings and just lie underneath your PC. Like, get in under a duvet, PC in there with you, Crysis.
Do you kind of wrap your body around it, like sort of put it against your chest,
you have
and then
to
just sort of wrap your legs and arms?
You have to dive on it like you're diving on a grenade to save a commanding officer in a war.
Is there an optimal way up that it goes? Do you have like an exhaust?
It depends on the nature of your case
in
there,
your face. Which part of your body do you?
Well, are we talking about a tower case, a MIDI case, a mini case, a maxi case?
I didn't know you were so techie.
A square case, a round case, an Xbox.
Get that water cooling out of it.
Yeah,
rip it out.
Just drink it.
Just drink it. Yeah, first of all, drink it. First of all, drink that delicious hot shit, and then enjoy.
It's only good for the first 80 seconds after you open it, so you have to drink it all
down it.
quick.
So then you piss into it, and then you drink that.
Why not, Alex?
Well, that's for later. Yeah.
And then what you do is you take your RGB even peripherals, and then you might not know this, but there's actually like a setting above the maximum brightness that is just death set. So set those, and also just stuff them down your shirt, your mouse mat.
I think you can also get a good tan. As well.
I mean, you'll die first, but the tan will come.
But to answer your earlier question, you want to avoid the fan because obviously fans make things colder. So you want to make sure that
also you might get sucked into it.
Yeah.
Like a Boeing.
What the fuck are we talking about?
Hey, the question invited this or not?
Yeah, it did, yeah. Good.
I think we've been quite helpful.
No, that's as destructive as you can be with the PC, really.
Yeah, don't do any of the things we just said.
No, God,
and we definitely, thank God I got public liability insurance last week.
Yeah. I feel like we need a disclaimer.
Yeah. Please
don't piss into your computer.
Don't do what you... I wasn't going to dig deeper into that because I didn't quite understand the logic of it, but
I'm very conscious that we opened this question section by saying happy birthday to someone really late. and have ended it by giving terrible advice, which makes me wonder that we're wandering into podcast territory that's very much claimed and should leave.
It's reasonable. That's reasonable.
If you'd like to send us a question for a future episode of the Crate and Crowbar, you can, of course, do so. And why not do so? By emailing us at questions@crateandcrowbar.com. You can also tweet us at Crate and Crowbar. Thanks very much to our Patreon backers, who make this nonsense possible, and thus take responsibility for it.
It's on you.
For the advice we've just given. If you'd like to shoulder that yourself, you can find out more by visiting patreon.com/Crate and Crowbar. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/Crate and Crowbar, I guess. That's it for that. Oh yeah, Discord exists and is lovely. And you should visit our Discord channel because it's full of very nice people. You can find the link for that on our website at crateandcrowbar.com. It's right up there in the bar. In the bar. If you'd like to follow us individually, on twitter.com, you can do that as well, Tom.
I'm at PCG Ludo. I don't really tweet, but follow me anyway. Why not?
Yeah.
You never know. You never know.
A rare drop might occur. Alex?
I'm at Rotational, ROTATIONAL, but I'm also not tweeting very much because I'm really busy at the moment.
Yeah. And I'm at C Thurston, which is CTHURSTEN, and I also almost never tweet.
Maybe we should just swap these out for social medias that we actually use, but I don't really have one.
I don't really have one either.
I've just got Instagram. It's good.
An incredible note to end on. Thanks for listening, I suppose.